I'm Glenn, 58 years old, an HVAC technician in Raleigh, North Carolina. My wife, Monica, is 56 and works as a hospital administrator. We've been married 31 years. Long enough to know each other's coffee order, bedtime habits, and which knee hurts when rain is coming. At least, that's what I thought. Our 2 daughters were grown and living in different states. The house had become quiet in a way that sneaks up on you. No slammed doors. No soccer schedules. Just 2 people moving through familiar rooms. One Saturday morning, I was cleaning out a hall closet. You know the kind. Every family has one. It's where old chargers go to die. Buried under a stack of photo albums was an old shared tablet Monica and I used years ago. I charged it mostly for nostalgia. I wanted to see old vacation pictures. The screen flickered to life. A few minutes later, a notification appeared. At first, I almost ignored it. Then I saw the message preview. I still think about what we discussed. Let me know when you're ready. No name. Just a first initial. M. I stared at the screen. Now, I'm not the kind of man who jumps to conclusions. 31 years of marriage teaches patience. It also teaches that panic is usually more expensive than facts. So I kept looking. The message wasn't new. It was several weeks old. Strange. The tablet hadn't been touched in years. Or at least that's what Monica had always said. I checked the account activity. The device had been synced recently. Very recently. My stomach tightened. That evening, Monica came home carrying groceries. Same smile. Same routine. Same kiss on the cheek. But when I casually mentioned finding the tablet, something changed. Just for a second. Her smile froze. Then it returned. Too quickly. You actually got that thing working? She asked. The question sounded harmless. The reaction didn't. Men, would that have bothered you? Because it bothered me. A lot. I said nothing about the message. Instead, I watched. For the next few days, little details started standing out. Monica began carrying her phone everywhere. She left the room whenever certain calls came in. Once, I walked into the kitchen and she quickly locked her screen. None of it proved anything. But all of it added weight. By Thursday night, I sat alone at the kitchen table, looking at that old tablet again. This time, I noticed something I had completely missed before. A folder had been opened the same night the mysterious message arrived. And what was inside that folder made my pulse stop for a moment. I thought I finally understood what was happening. I was wrong. The folder wasn't filled with romantic messages or secret photos. It contained scanned documents. Dozens of them. Tax records. Insurance forms. Retirement projections. Property assessments. Some were mine. Some were Monica's. A few included figures I had never seen before. That got my attention. I've spent most of my life fixing broken systems. Air conditioners, furnaces, ventilation units. Problems leave patterns. You learn to follow them instead of your emotions. So that's exactly what I did. The next evening, after Monica went to bed, I sat at my desk and started building a timeline. The message had arrived 6 weeks earlier. The folder activity started around the same time. Then I noticed something else. Several documents referenced an account number I didn't recognize. Not one of our checking accounts. Not our savings account. Something different. I felt a knot form in my chest. Financial secrecy can damage a marriage just as quickly as any affair. Maybe faster. The next morning, I decided to ask a simple question. Nothing dramatic. Over breakfast, I said, Monica, have we opened any new accounts lately that I might have forgotten about? She nearly dropped her coffee mug. Not completely. Just enough for me to notice. Her eyes met mine for a second. Then she looked away. No, she said. Too fast. The answer landed badly. Because now I had two problems. The strange account. And a direct question that hadn't felt honest. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I simply nodded and went to work. Over the next week, I kept observing. Monica wasn't acting like someone having an affair. I've seen enough marriages collapse among friends to recognize that pattern. This felt different. She seemed worried. Distracted. Almost sad. One night I woke up around 2 in the morning and found her sitting alone on the back patio. Wrapped in a blanket. Looking out into the darkness. She didn't hear me step outside. For a moment, she looked older than I had ever seen her. Not physically. Emotionally. Like she was carrying something heavy. When she finally noticed me, she forced a smile. Couldn't sleep, she said. I sat beside her. Neither of us spoke. The silence felt thicker than the summer air. Back inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. The next afternoon, that piece arrived unexpectedly. A large envelope was delivered to our house. The sender's name meant nothing to me. But when Monica saw it, the color drained from her face. She grabbed the envelope so quickly it was almost reflex. Then she realized I had noticed. For 3 long seconds, neither of us spoke. That's when I saw something I hadn't seen before. Fear. Real fear. And suddenly I knew this situation was far bigger than a hidden account or an old tablet notification. What I didn't know was why. The answer was closer than I realized, and it would force me to question everything I thought I understood about my wife. I didn't chase Monica through the house demanding answers. At 58, I've learned that pressure often creates better hiding places. Instead, I paid attention. The envelope disappeared into her home office. That alone wasn't unusual. What was unusual was that Monica locked the office door afterward. In 31 years of marriage, she'd never done that. The next day was Saturday. Monica left early, saying she had errands to run. Her voice sounded normal. Her eyes didn't. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table with a notebook and started reconstructing the timeline again. The mysterious message. The old tablet activity. The unfamiliar account. The scanned retirement documents. The envelope. Everything pointed toward money, planning, or some future event. None of it pointed toward another man. That realization brought relief, but only for about 5 minutes. Because if it wasn't an affair, why all the secrecy? By noon, I decided to verify a few facts. Over the years, Monica had handled most of our retirement paperwork because her hospital benefits package was far more complicated than mine. I dug through our filing cabinet and compared older records with copies I found online. That's when I discovered something strange. Several beneficiary designations had been updated within the past year. I wasn't removed. Our daughters weren't removed. But additional paperwork had clearly been filed. Paperwork I had never seen. My pulse quickened. Monica wasn't stealing from the family. She was planning something. The question was what? That evening, our younger daughter, Claire, called from Colorado. During the conversation, she casually mentioned that Monica had been checking in with her more often lately. Mom's been asking a lot of questions about retirement, Claire said. Really? I asked. Yeah. Almost like she's trying to figure something out. After the call ended, I sat quietly in my recliner. A pattern was emerging. Not betrayal. Preparation. But preparation for what? Later that night, I heard Monica crying. Very softly. The sound came from her office. I stopped outside the door. For a moment, I considered walking in. Instead, I waited. A few minutes later, the crying stopped. When Monica came out, her eyes were red. She saw me standing there and froze. Then came something that surprised me. Not denial. Not anger. Guilt. Deep guilt. "I'll explain everything soon," she said quietly. Soon. That's the word people use when they're terrified of today. I looked her straight in the eyes. "Monica, whatever this is, it's already affecting us." Her face crumpled for a second before she regained control. "I know." That was all she said. The next morning, I thought I was finally close to the truth. Then I opened the mailbox. Inside was a second envelope from the same sender. This one wasn't sealed properly. And the single page visible through the opening changed the entire direction of my investigation. I had only seen one sentence, but it was enough to make my heart pound. I suddenly realized the secret might not be about money at all. I carried the envelope inside and set it on the kitchen counter. For a full minute, I just stared at it. The visible sentence read: estimated treatment timeline and projected outcomes. Treatment. Not investment. Not retirement planning. Treatment. Suddenly every theory I'd built over the previous week started falling apart. When Monica came downstairs and saw the envelope, she stopped cold. Neither of us spoke. She looked exhausted. Not caught. Exhausted. I slid the envelope toward her. "Monica," I said calmly, "we can't keep doing this." Her hands trembled. For a moment I thought she would deny everything again. Instead, she sat down. Then she started crying. Not the controlled tears I'd heard outside her office. Real tears. The kind that come from carrying a burden too long. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I remained silent. After all these years, I knew silence can sometimes be more powerful than 100 questions. Monica wiped her eyes and looked at me. The account wasn't a secret account. I said nothing. It was money I moved over time for something specific. My heart pounded. What something? She looked down at her hands. Then came another long pause. The room felt smaller by the second. Finally she said, "I didn't know how to tell you." That answer irritated me more than any document ever could. "I'm your husband," I replied. "Not a stranger." She nodded. "I know." Then she told me about months of medical appointments. Specialists. Tests. Second opinions. Consultations she had attended alone. Every sentence answered one question and created 3 more. I felt anger rising, but not because of illness. Because she had chosen fear over partnership. Because she'd carried all of it herself. Because she'd decided what I could handle without ever asking me. Why? I finally asked. Her answer came immediately. Because I was afraid. There it was. The first completely honest sentence I'd heard in weeks. Afraid of aging. Afraid of becoming dependent. Afraid of retirement. Afraid that if a serious diagnosis arrived, our entire future would change. The retirement documents suddenly made sense. The financial transfers made sense. Even the mysterious message. The sender wasn't a man. It was a financial planning consultant whose first name began with M. The old tablet had simply synced an overlooked notification. One misunderstanding had triggered a chain reaction. But there was still one thing Monica hadn't told me. One detail buried inside those appointments. One reason she had been crying behind a locked office door. I could see it in her face. The biggest truth was still sitting between us. And when she finally prepared to say it, I wasn't sure which of us was more afraid to hear it. Monica sat across from me at our kitchen table, twisting a tissue between her fingers. After weeks of suspicion, documents, envelopes, and half-truths, the house was finally quiet. No more hiding. No more guessing. Just the truth. "I found a lump 8 months ago," she said. The words landed heavily. Not because they were dramatic. Because they were real. She explained that the first tests had been inconclusive. Then came more appointments, more scans, more specialists. Every time she expected a clear answer, another question appeared. So she kept it to herself. At first, she told herself she was protecting me. Then she was protecting our daughters. Then she was protecting everyone's peace of mind. In reality, she had become trapped inside her own fear. The financial account wasn't secret spending. It was money she had quietly set aside in case treatment became expensive. The retirement projections were her attempt to understand what our future might look like if her health changed. The consultant who sent the messages had been helping her organize contingency plans. Everything fit. Every strange detail finally had a place. What was the final diagnosis? I asked. Monica looked up. The last specialist cleared me. I closed my eyes. For the first time in months, I felt my shoulders relax. The growth had turned out to be non-cancerous. The danger that had haunted her thoughts for nearly a year was gone. But the damage caused by secrecy remained. I reached across the table. Monica, I'm grateful you're healthy. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But you made a mistake. She nodded immediately. I know. You decided for both of us. You carried a burden that belonged to both of us. Her face crumpled. I thought I was protecting you. I don't need protection from the truth. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then something changed. The tension that had built for months finally began to dissolve. Not because the problem disappeared. Because it was finally shared. Over the next several weeks, we did something we should have done from the beginning. We talked. Really talked. About aging. Retirement. Fear. Health. The empty nest our daughters had left behind. The strange feeling of entering a new stage of life together. We created complete financial transparency. Every account. Every document. Every plan. No more surprises. No more silent sacrifices. A month later, Monica suggested something unexpected. A new family tradition. Once every 3 months, our daughters joined us on a video call where we discussed family goals, health updates, and future plans. Nothing formal. Just honest conversations. Simple. But powerful. Looking back, the real threat to our marriage was never illness. It was silence. Pride convinced Monica she had to carry everything alone. Assumptions convinced me the worst possibilities were hiding in the shadows. Both of us were wrong. Marriage after 30 years isn't held together by romance alone. It's held together by respect. By transparency. By the courage to tell uncomfortable truths before fear turns them into secrets. I forgave Monica because she made a mistake, not because the mistake was acceptable. There's a difference. Forgiveness without standards is weakness. Forgiveness with wisdom is strength. Today, we're still in Raleigh. Still arguing about thermostat settings. Still laughing over morning coffee. And stronger than we were before that old tablet lit up. Because the truth finally sat at the table with us. And once it did, neither of us had to face the future alone. What happens when a husband suspects betrayal but discovers something far more complicated? One forgotten notification nearly exposed a marriage to fear and silence, but wisdom turned a crisis into a stronger future.